Okay, so in Hebrew, we are up to page Samach Zayin. In English, we're up to page 82. The title of the chapter is Sulam Mutzav Artzav Rosham Geshamayma, the ladder that rests on the earth, and the head reaches to Shamayim. Shabbos is a sulam, is a ladder that is Mekasher Adam Le'olam Hakedusha, that a person connects a person to the world of holiness. So it says in the pasuk, Poter Mayim Rishit Madon. What does that mean? Poter Mayim Rishis Madon. Do you have that pasuk in Mishlei introduced?
Yeah.
Is it 86?
Sorry. Something with an argument is like opening a hole in the dams.
Okay. Right. Because what you're doing is it's just like a little hole, but what you're doing essentially is you're creating a flood in one little moment. So as you start an argument, you're opening up the flood. Also saker gadol im yinakev bo chur katan bo hasker yitmotet yikach tzat hazman aval ze yikareh lebesof ken kach yeshna nekudot churim ktanim biyahadut shelu lahavi harbe chorban harbe heres tzrichim lachapet otan liskor otan lifnei sheheres yifrot v'yitpashet. So there are just as if you have a vast body of water, you poke a little hole in it, the entire dam collapses, and which causes you to say "damn," and it takes a while, but in the end, it will happen. So if there are certain weak points in Torah observance, so the same thing happens to us as well. That we can. It may seem tiny, it may seem insignificant, but it can cause a great deal of harm. This also is true when it comes to the opposite. There are pieces, points, that within them there's also great blessing. So just as there's averot, sins that can cause us great damage, and they may seem small and insignificant, nonetheless, if they are opened up, the floodgates open up and we're in trouble. And anyone who deals with addiction understands that that's the same idea. The idea is like, it's just, there's no such thing as, oh, let me just do this once, right? It will cause floodgate to open up and you'll be incapable of escaping. So too, with mitzvos, there are certain yesodot, certain beautiful things in Judaism, certain wonderful things that if you start to tap into them, they open up a portal into a Gan Eden, into a paradise. One of those important yesodot, one of those important foundational ideas is Shabbos Kodesh Nikris Me'ein HaBrachos. It's called the Ma'ayan, or the wellspring of blessings. Klomar Shabbos Ma'ayan Shel Brachos. This was integrated into the nature of the world when the world was created. That Shabbos is that place you tap into for all of the brachos in the world. As we say Me'ein HaBrachos when we're saying Friday night, when we're reciting the prayer at the end, right? Me'ein Sheva, we say Me'ein HaBrachos. Me'ein is Lashon Ma'ayan. Chaim anu b'soch olam shebarach HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'sheiz me'bresh. So the world we live in, Hashem created in the 6 days of creation. Ma'aseh Bereshis zohi utzma shelo nitin lishvorosa b'shum open. So it is something that we can't break in any way. Kadosh Baruch Hu nishba od kol yemei haaretz zera v'katzir v'kar l'chom kaitz choref yom b'layla lishbas. All of the days of the earth, the plant, the seeding, the harvest, the cold, the hot, the summer, the winter, the day and night, to me, they will rest. What is that talking about? Yeshnam ba'olam harbe shinuyim harbe gilgulim. There are many changes in the world. There are many cycles, iterations. What he established in the beginning as part of nature will not change. What was will be. So in other words, there's a guarantee that nature will continue in its way. Yes, there will be hiccups. There'll be moments when it gets very cold, or moments when it gets very hot, there'll be moments when the world heats up, the moments when the world freezes up. And those are all part of, those will happen, but ultimately all of nature, right? There's a certain understanding that it's sort of encrypted in the DNA of the universe. Echad hapratim hamehutiim mitochnit shel ha'olam shenikva al yedei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ma'aseh bereishis hu she'olam banoi mishish yamim va'od yom echad. One of those essential ideas, the world was created from the 6 days of creation, and then there was another day, like on top of. Ooh, Karen's joining. Hi, Karen. I didn't know how long you were on. Okay, so one of those rules is that Hashem encrypted in the Maaseh Bereshis that the world is created 6 days and then an extra day. Also Yom, and that extra day, who merkaz shemimenu yonkim shishmei hamaaseh kedusha sheyachos HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That somehow that extra day is the source from where all of the holiness that we experience, that we exhibit during the rest of the week, both forward and backwards, are about Shabbos. Either that everything's pointing towards Shabbos, or Shabbos is the source of everything that we experience during the rest of the week. So there's a Mamar Chazal that if you have whatever you experience on Shabbos, it will enhance your week, right? So if you have a Shabbos that's filled with strife, with machlokes, with this, so you're gonna have that kind of week. And if you have a Shabbos that's restful, it's peaceful, that's filled with kedusha, that too will inspire your week. That's the rule of Maaseh Bereshis. And there is no possibility. You can't work around this. That's the way of the world. Whether or not you observe Shabbos, it's going to influence your week. Isn't this, we can then reveal something that is a wondrous aspect. There are many people who are Torah Jews, let's say Bachurei Yeshivot, Avreichim, people studying Yeshiva, Mashkim Kolkach Harbe Shaot, Kolkach Harbe Shtadlut, Im Amel Vigia, Hakol Mitoch Shifa Ratzon Amitit Lidgadel Kadem Bavaros Hashem Yisparach. People spend their entire weeks trying to serve God, davening, learning, tzedakah, etc. In Kol Zos, Lamar Ba'Pelam, Hameshavrim Rabim, Mejbarim Rabim, Hitkadmut, Einina Klal B'Yachas Hashkah. So you see people put in so much work and they're not successful, right? But it's not just true in Torah; it's true in all elements. There are people who that the amount of success they experience is not necessarily parallel to the amount of commensurate to the amount of effort they put in, right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu baras sheishes mi'abreshis, boven she'et ikar makor kedusha et koach shelanu b'yom rishon sheni shlishi l'spalel lilmod Torah. All of our spiritual success during the week to go forward, all of this is from Shabbos. And sorry, I skipped a line. She says that I believe that people are not connecting their effort of the Sheish Mei Bereshis back to Shabbos. In other words, if you want spiritual success and you put in day and night, but you don't connect it back to the source, so if Shabbos is disconnected from that success that you're trying to experience during the week, then ultimately it's not necessarily going to thrive. Because except he made the 6 days of creation in such a way where Shabbos serves the source for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc. And therefore, if you're not having success in prayer, in learning, in whatever it is you want to do spiritually during the week, then the finger gets pointed back to how did you observe Shabbos, right? You can't be a 6-day Jew, even as noble and as emistic as you are, and expect to have any success if that 7th day is not the focal point. So we don't know how to get to that. That's his first statement, that all of the success we have, no matter what during the week, is talui on how we connect to Hashem on Shabbos. It's a shocking idea, because if you think about it, right, and he's talking about spiritual success, but I think the same is true with Shabbos. If Shabbos is the source of all wonderful things, so if you're connecting on Shabbos, then and you're not finding any success during the week, it could be that it's not plugged in. In other words, your day of rest is not connected back to Sheshish Mei. HaKadosh Baruch Hu worked the world for 6 days and then he rested on the 7th day, and we're not experiencing that as well. I don't know yet where he's going with this. But okay.
So don't you actually have to do something during the week in order to make that Shabbos
Absolutely.
part of, the holiness Shabbos?
Right.
So long.
Right. So there's going to have to be some sort of connection. But I think the idea is that if you're totally not connected to the source, then it's like you're not engaged in something meaningful, right? Like, why am I learning Torah? Right. So if I don't know why I'm doing this, right, then it just becomes totally separate from Kedusha. I think that's probably where it comes. And the place to plug in to recharge would be Shabbos, where everything you've done during the week, then it gets perspective and meaning and purpose. So Shekulanu Shalom and Shabbos, for sure we're all Shabbos observant, but but you can cause with a little bit of effort, right? You can actually make your Shabbos elevated beyond just observant of Shabbos. I'm Shabbos observant means I plug in my phone and I leave it in and I don't touch it, and I don't turn on television, I don't check the news or my email, and I'm not going to go in the car, and I'm not going to flick on lights, right? But then there's a layer beyond that. It's only la'amod kan al apela gadol niglo leinu sheitzel Yehudi bichlal ve'etzel b'nei Torah bifrat be'ofen tivi hayom shafel b'yoter b'avodat Hashem u'yom HaShabbos. Let's see what happens to a God-fearing Jew on Shabbos. We have a structure to our day. I was just thinking about, with all these electronics and all these calendar apps and things like that. I was thinking that, like, for whatever reason, I haven't been able to use the calendar as a proper to-do list. You can, if you know how to use calendars, you can actually plug in your to-do list into the calendar. Like at 3 p.m., call this person. It's also a lot of effort. So I was thinking I'm going to go back to this really radical idea in terms of getting stuff done. Get a notepad, write things down. Right.
We have a calendar that we write stuff on the refrigerator. That's how we do it.
And they have them. They have these ones that have priority and second priority and wish list. And you can actually put it down the beginning of the day. If you don't start the day with that, if I don't start my day with that, there are things that are just not going to get done, personal and professional. So so we have a Mizgeret, that we have a structure to our day. Arba Shot. Let's say a person is learning, he's talking about for Yeshiva Bacher, but he's learning 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours at night, right? So let's say if you're in Yeshiva, you're going to sit and learn those hours, right? We also have Siddharim Shel Tefillah. You have times of prayer, right? Times that you eat and exercise. And in total, right, our days can be filled potentially with a great deal of kedusha, of holiness. He's talking again to whoever the audience was here, was the Yeshiva Bacher, but I think it extends to others as well.
Yeah, he says it, at least in our book of the left.
Right. Hi, Dalia.
Hi.
I don't know how long you were waiting. I apologize. I didn't look up.
No, just like 30 seconds.
Okay. So it's not just people who are sitting in a world of Torah, but people who are trying to earn their parnasa. You go to work every day. So when a person goes to work to provide money for themselves, their family, and you want to raise a God-fearing family, and you want to set time for your own Torah. So basically, you're engaged all day long in mitzvahs, because working and being part of the world, especially Rav Hirsch's idea of Yofet Torah Derech Eretz, extending to Derech Eretz doesn't mean be a mensch. Derech Eretz means how you fit into society. So Shabbos arrives, and specifically on that day, that all of the structure that you had during the week doesn't exist anymore. Nighttime, you go to sleep early. You wake up sometimes after 12 hours of sleep. I don't know who sleeps 12 hours of sleep on Friday night, but that'll be interesting. But you wake up, maybe you run to shul. At the end of tefillah, you sit, you eat a little bit of cholent, then you sleep a little more, 3 hours or 4 hours, right? In the end, you run back to Mincha, right? It's a day that's almost empty of content, if you think about it. And this happens to very good families. So it's a strange phenomenon is that what he's saying is you have this day that is designed as the source of all Kedusha, a day that's supposed to be our Ma'yan HaShavua. And what are we doing? We're sleeping through the day. We're sleeping and eating through that day, running around. The tefillah is sort of like a side piece, even though we do spend some time in davening. And for those specifically those who are sitting in a world of Torah, but even if you're working, you're supporting Torah lifestyle, the structure of the day lends itself to Kedusha, the holiness. There's no structure, if you think about it on Shabbos, unless you make the structure, unless you make the time to sit down and go to a shiur or to open up a sefer. So that sounds strange. So how do we explain that the day that's supposed to be so holy is seemingly more devoid? So Yisera Mizu B'Sfarim HaKadoshim. When we talk about Sfarim HaKadoshim, we're talking about the works of Chasidus. He explains the Kedusha Shabbos Mitchila B'Chatzos Shel Erev Shabbos. When does the holiness of Shabbos commence? Erev Shabbos at noon. Right? That's when you really Hinei Lamar Ba'Pela. That's, he says, I think this is when the greatest disgrace begins. What do I mean? In that moment, when the first bells of Kedusha begin to ring, everything starts to fall apart. It doesn't make sense. Erev Shabbos with Chatzos, you have a moment of 12 and 12:30. Shabbos is starting at the Defekot Shel Kedusha. The cold of the dofek, the voice of my beloved is knocking. Pitchi li achoti rayati onati tamati. That's the pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Mitchila Kedusha Shel Shabbos Kodesh, and at that point, the sanctity of Shabbos begins as the Shabbos queen is knocking at the door. Davka az be'ofen TV, in that moment, in a natural way, kol hagmarot niskarot, that's when the Gemaras close. Everything begins to fall apart. So again, even if you're not talking to the yeshiva bacher, as you have to go and run and get ready, you lost structure, right? Erev Shabbos is chaotic. That's why fights break out Erev Shabbos, because it's like, oh, we have to go to the grocery store, pick up this, I forgot to pick that up. We're running around, we're trying to make it on time. And structure is the only thing you don't have, if you think about it. So, so you wanted to disagree or no?
Oh, it's just not me.
You don't have chaos.
I don't run around on Friday.
What?
I prepare.
You do it during the whole week.
And I'm sitting there sipping my cup of tea, waiting for her to get dressed.
Wait, so you have Kedusha Shabbos already, that point, but a lot of people, this is when things begin actually structurally in their homes fall apart. We have a mitzvah to prepare for Shabbos. That's by the man. On Friday, they would pick up the double portion. And in the winter, the days are short, summer days are long. We still, right, have set hours that we operate. This, I think, is where our week begins to fall apart. Why? Because the Ben Torah Stov is Shabbos Kodesh mitchilasa ad sofa ha'mamalel soim tochen lo yam marviach rak od yom echad ela haya poteach la'atzmo mayan shekadusha. Now, if you are oriented towards the holiness, then it's not just you're getting another day, like another day to learn Torah, right? Let's say your whole week is study of Torah. You were able to be engaged in Kedusha your whole life. So then when you're getting that last day, you're getting an additional day. But more than that is like if you know how to utilize it, then you're opening up that Mayan of Kedusha, of holiness. So like Yom Noraim is not just 10 days. It's not just a day. Oh, we just have to get through the 24 hours of Yom Kippur. It's not just 24 hours. It's Poteach Lanu Olamot T'chol. It's opening up a world for the whole year. So too, if we knew that we can take advantage of the Shabbos and its holiness, then every aspect of our lives would be totally different. So I want to understand, he says, to explain the depth of what is in front of us. What causes this strange reality that the day that you have to reserve for Kulo Kodesh or all elevation, Kulo Aliyah, becomes basically a lower day for a lot of people, the weakest day for many of us. You know, this is an observation. I don't know if this is something you experience, right? I think for me, I think I can connect to the productivity and structure issue. It's sort of like if you know you have to do your, like for me, I want to do my daf yomi, so I have a set time. Shabbos, I feel pressured. I'm running around. I feel like it's hard to get everything done. If I know that I have to reach out, I know that I have to get a certain number of items done on my list. It's very difficult for Shabbos to do them. You have to walk over, you have to find them, you're distracted, you're pulled around. It's not an easy day to feel accomplished. I think for people who are, what your discipline is, I think that Shabbos is a source of stress for a lot of people, right? And it can be chaotic. And it's supposed to be the opposite. Shabbos is supposed to be uplifting, right? People are rushing right before Shabbos at 3 p.m. on a Friday, and they're saying, I don't know what to do. We're not going to get ready in time, right? Candlelighting's and what you can't do your exercise, you can't do you can't get the work done. Friday is basically a wash where people work downtown, they leave at noon, and then they feel the stress there, and they're worried about the projects. So I think there's a lot of stress that is generated onto Shabbos, and then you feel it's a day of just, okay, it's a wasted day. So that could happen very easily to someone. So he says, I want to understand, how is it this day was supposed to be everything to us became, the opposite.
You mean Shabbos or Friday?
Well, he's talking about Shabbos itself, but Friday is also, which is the beginning of that.
Because I thought chaos was Friday.
It's a different kind of chaos. It's a preparatory. It's a kavod and oneg, right? So preparation for Shabbos is kavod Shabbos. When you enjoy it on Shabbos, it's oneg Shabbos. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Rabbi,
Yes.
this is such a great point, and I have to say, I never really thought of it exactly in this way, that because we have no routine for Shabbos, that sometimes we just let the time just go by without that structure.
Yeah, and you have a book you want to finish, but it's not structured, right?
No, right, no. That there should be some structured, I think, for the day, so that you feel that you've accomplished something in Kedusha to then start your week. And I think in my own case, the lack of structuring Shabbos, the way you structure the rest of the week, sometimes leads to that that failing of really going into the next week with Kedusha.
Right. Could be that's what's happening to us. So let's see how he takes this further. I think we all have our own experiences of that, how we relate to the sort of the chaos that is supposed to be holiness and it's not. So Hagdari sort of noted, Valpia lahasbir atofa muflash is charnu, shayom mukdash hamekudash, hamekudash mikol hayamim hugam hacharav shebehem. It's the most destructive. And omrim ve'avdallah. We say in Havdalah, one who separates between holiness and mundane, light and dark, between the Jewish people and the world, between the 7 days, between the seventh day and the 6 days of creation. There are things that are so distant from each other. Olam hazeh, olam haba, shamayim va'aretz, kedusha and chulin. These two are opposite components. They're opposite. One couldn't be more different than the other. Minugadot zu mizu lezu b'tachas hanigud. They're clearly on opposite sides of the world spectrum. When these items are approached to us, like olam hazeh v'yemot Mashiach. So olam hazeh, olam haba are two different entities. But what's olam hazeh and yemot Mashiach? Olam hazeh is this world. Yemot Mashiach is in between this world and the olam haba. Or Yisad HaKadosh Baruch Hu klal b'soch habriya shematzavim ke'elo yesh kesher bin shnei hadvarim. There's a connection. There's a little bit of Yemot Mashiach that is already felt now. Hachelek hamekasher b'neim nikra na'utz zeh b'zeh. They are touching one another, right? They're overlapping. So when things overlap, that's where you have tension. Before we go on, I'll share the idea from Rabbi Foreman, which is that when do we find machlokes in our lives? It's when things are not different than us, but different, but a little similar. So, for instance, he says that if you were to ask your average non-Christian, what's the difference between a Catholic and a Protestant? Is, I don't know, just a bunch of Christians, right? That's all. And like, they don't see eye to eye on anything. And you ask your average, Christian or Jew, well, what's the difference between a bunch of, they're all Muslims, right? No, Sunni and Shiite, totally different. They want to kill each other. There are wars are fought, millions are killed. Over what? We don't know. It's their machlokas. Then it is now internally, you look at like the different factions in Judaism. You look at Orthodox Jews, and we're all crazy. Some have side curls and beards, and some don't, right? This is more specifically used about like you have modern and open and Haredi, but yeshivish and Hasidish, and they're all like very close to each other. So you ask a non-Jew, what's the difference? They're just a bunch of Jews, right? But to us, it's like the fiercest competition. Where do you feel the most tension in your life religiously is the person who's immediately to your right or to your left. That's where you feel immediately like most uncomfortable. People connect to Chabad because it's just a different planet. Chabad is a Chabad guy, so I can dive in there because I know I'm not him. He knows I'm not him, and I'm not, and I know he's not me. So there's no tension. So I can learn, interact with that other person. We have no problem with plurality. We have a problem with people who are just like us, but a little bit different. That's where it becomes tension. That's where things becomes tense. That's where we're experiencing imposter syndrome. We doubt ourselves, and we doubt them, and we doubt someone else being genuine and sincere. And things really build up there. So it's the overlap. He's calling it the na'utz zeh b'zeh, that bridge between things that are very similar. And we have this not just with people and with theology, but also with times in the world, in the universe, or elements of Kedusha. So what is this like? You have a chain that is made of many little circles. To connect two circles, you need a third thing in the middle that enters both circles, right? We're talking about concentric circles, and you have overlapping values of different components in any group. You build a bridge over a river. From one end to the next. The bridge has to go a little bit onto dry land, mikan and mikan. This is the world also. You have olam haba and olam hazeh don't interact, but there's something in the middle, a bridge called, he's calling it a bridge, but a bridge is Yemot Mashiach. Kach b'diuk gam le'inenu. This is also how we see in our Inyan. The history of the world of being 6,000 years old, the Chazal tell us the first 2,000 years are Tohu, the second 2,000 years are Torah, right? And the last 2,000 years are Yemot Mashiach, which we're in. So what does that mean? So there's certainly Torah in Yemot Mashiach, certainly Tohu, Yemot Mashiach. There's all those values are there. Chaos, right? Before Avraham Avinu, there's chaos. Specifically, he's born in 1948, right, which is an easy year to remember. And then 2,000 years is at that point the Torah is given roughly, right? Meaning around that point. So he's introduced into the world at least the concept of Torah, Avraham, and then his descendants. But that overlap that we're experiencing, things that feel messianic, but yet also this world, we're in that bridge. We're in a bridge between the Olam Haba and the Olam Hazeh. So this is what we're experiencing. We live in this world. In the future, we're going to arrive at Yemot Mashiach. But we think that one day, this world will end, and right away, Yemot Mashiach will begin. Right, we'll blink, we'll go to sleep one night, the next day we'll wake up and everything will be perfect. There'll be no war, there'll be no hatred, there'll be no poverty, there'll be no high gas prices, right? You won't have to put up with it, and the Bills won't lose a game. Everything will be perfect at that point. Then it's not going to work like that. Because Zoe Emmet. We have to know there is a reach, there's an influence, it's carving its claws into our world And there's a little bit of our world that's penetrating beyond the borders of into that ideal world. What does that mean? Why do they feel? Why do the nations feel, and yet have regish, but they yet reached for nothing? For Hashem and His Mashiach. The kavanah is acharish Mashiach. Once Mashiach comes, there's this great war that is envisioned. Lo aleinu, hagoyim yavod lilachem neged Mashiach, and everyone's going to try to fight against the Mashiach. Hatzaros shel amenu yechteru l'tzoch yemos Mashiach. In other words, our tsaros that we're experiencing now, all that anti-Semitism, all that anti-religion and anti good values and all that stuff is going to start to reach even when the Mashiach arrives. It's not going to be simple. Kain hafuch, asiyat deshmaya, the greatness that comes, the divine help that comes from Hashem, of the Mashiach, choderet l'toch hazman. It's also living in our time. We see greatness in our lives right now, right? When you're learning something and all of a sudden Hashem speaks to you and you're like, I've been struggling with this forever. That's, that's the influence in our world that we call the ikvis of Mashiach, the heel of the Messiah, because we go up the body, and we're now seeing the heels. Before the Mashiach arrives, for the light of the Messiah will also reside here. When God creates our world, He creates the heavens and the earth. God, the heavens are the heavens for God, but the earth was given to man. What does that mean? Shamayim is clearly God's domain. They're the angels there. Hasarafim, the other fiery beings, Ophanim, or other angels. Rak Omrim Shira, and they sing Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. They say the words 3 times, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Olam Shel Kedusha. Mi'idach, on the other side, Olameinu, our world, Olam Shel Chulin, is a world that is mundane. And a kavana, Davka Latuma. But when we talk about this, we don't mean everything's impure here. We have add some Olam Shel Chulin. It's Chulin, it's not Kodesh, it's just Chol. Most of the things we encounter are not encountered bi Kedusha. They're things, they're items that are generally Chol. But there's going to be parts of our lives in which we have a gesher, we have a bridge into Kedusha. What he's going to argue in the next piece is that Shabbos is that bridge. We talk about Me'ein Olam Haba, that we have a piece of the world to come. So why do we have chaos, right? Because, again, I'm just projecting what he's going to go into the next section, which is too large for now, which is we experience the Chol on Shabbos. Where it's experiencing, when you have chaos on Yom Shel Kedusha, and you have a lack of order, Yom Shel Kedusha, it's because the Chol creeps in. And when you have great moments during the week, it's the same thing. And that bridge, the very important piece is going to be Erev Shabbos, right? How you speak to one another, how you set up the table. Are you running around, right, like a chicken without a head, or are you sipping your tea because you've done everything during the week already? So that will determine not just the experience that you have on Shabbos, but also your taste of Shabbos Bichlal, of Kedusha Bichlal. Okay.
I have late anxiety, and Mrs. Ford